Oh, you meant an impact on the game. Yeah, it was game winning.
Yeah,
It was a game winning top deck. Oh, you meant that kind of huge.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
look at that one copy. Why would you need more? And 2 sanity scorchers. Ooh, that's nasty.
Oh yeah, that was
Just
the
really
single
mixing up the
copy.
stealth units so they didn't know. And there was like a 1 in 3 chance that it would be the Ursa and not a sanity scorcher. Ooh, JNL, you nasty. All right, so that got them over the finish line in a super close game.
The problem is I don't think it would have been as close if I didn't mess up that one combat step. Generally, decks with fewer decisions have less margin for error, in my opinion, or the errors make a lot more of a difference.
That's probably what the N stands for, right? Just nasty.
If you're gonna start that, you gotta know.
Couldn't come up with a good L.
Man.
Couldn't come up with a good L.
Man.
I was hoping you would.
How about this?
You would chime in with the L there.
How about this? Just not losing. Because that's all we've seen today.
That is true. You got me.
Just not losing. I kind of like the sound of that, but JNL actually stands for just no life, because all I feel like I'm doing every day is grinding without much social interaction. But I do enjoy not having social interaction, so I'm fine with it.
Thanks for coming to the rescue there, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And so that was funny. So we saw a lot of builders decrees each time out of Old Rich. Very different in this match, wasn't it? With the builders decrees being used on turns 1 and turns 2 to just slow down the 1 and 2 drops.
How about this hand? JNL on the play again. Snowcrest Yeti, Oni, Ronin, League Explorer. Woo!
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's a good hand. It's a good opener.
Yeah.
Dude, I could try to give you a lot of reasons, but everyone at home knows it's a good opener, and they know a bunch of the reasons why it's a good opener. They've lost to a lot of hands like this before if they've played Eternal. So we'll see if Old Rich can do something about it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, you and I have talked about this offline as well, but yeah, aggro decks get underplayed, I think, a little bit. I think that, you know, we see this in TNE too. It's very, very rare that people bring like...
I do think aggro decks are pretty underplayed. They're a lot stronger with the smaller field. Like this tournament, there are only 16 players. It's a lot easier to have a meta read when compared to the 5K opens where hundreds, if not thousands of players are bringing different decks.
A Skycrag aggro deck, and yet whenever they do, it gets to top 8, gets to top 4, like gets to the finals. Like, I don't know if it's just tournament atmosphere or people, you know, with open deck lists or what, but you know, people bring aggro decks like this, and they're hard to beat. They're good. They require an answer.
You play mid-range and control decks, and the game goes on for a while, and so you add a little bit more sauce to beat the other people. You go a little more over the top of them, and that sort of thing can go back and forth for a while, where it's like, oh, okay, you're playing D'Angelo's Mites, well, I'm playing all 4 copies of D'Angelo's Mites, and those sorts of ideas, and then all of a sudden somebody like JNL notices, it's like, what are you guys doing? I'm going to play a 1-drop and attack you. And that sort of brings the metagame sometimes back down to earth a little bit. And then we start. And so it's always kind of important to know where, not just where you want to be, not just how good your deck is, but sometimes you want to, if you want to be playing at the absolute highest level in tournaments, like where do I think other people are going to be? And it's basically the most complicated version of rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock that you can imagine.
Nice.
Thank you, BK, for a much better way of explaining what I just said.
Champion of Fury going to be the play here for JNL. That does have charge and overwhelm. Going to hit in for 4 thanks to that perfect influence. And then following up with an Oni Ronin. Enter the monastery for Old Rich. Is going to get their ramp on a little bit. And they've got 2 copies of...
So this turn, I'm looking to play around Equalize and Shenra Speaks at the same time. As stated in my previous video, you generally want to empty your hand versus an Equalize, unless if you can ascertain that the last card in your hand is on average better than the last card in the opponent's hand. It's pretty difficult playing into both Equalize and Shenra Speaks on the same turn, but because a lot of the units I'm about to play have Aegis, I don't really have to care about the Shenra Speaks, because when the Shenra Speaks go off, it leaves behind units with their bubbles popped.
Equalize and the Shenra Speaks in hand. JNL's got 2 more units. Now, does JNL hold back against a harsh spell here, or are they just going at it and dumping their hand here? Oof.
I mean, I think it's mostly with Skycrag. It's when they can leave a little bit back. Like, they don't need to go much more than this. Okay. So, wow.
Get the depth charge off.
So like if you look at this position, if they equalize, they're screwed because they don't have a hand. And if they Shenra speaks, they're screwed. They have a hand, but I leave 6 power on board. So a lot of the top decks end up killing him. So he's pretty much forced to equalize here.
Basically saying I win next turn if you don't have it.
Yeah. They're saying 1, I definitely win next turn, and 2, even if you have the equalize, that's the rest of your hand.
Right.
And it's not the worst place to be for a Skycrag deck. It's kind of true that it's like, if you're going to make them discard most of the cards in their hand when they have equalize, do you maybe just want to make them discard the rest of their cards in hand? Do you want to be faced with like Oni Ronin in hand plus the best card in their hand? And that's sort of what JNL did here. It's not a natural play. It's very common you'd want to hold on to 1 card in hand in a spot like this. But when it means they lose literally every card and you get to top deck first, it makes sense.
Yeah, I like
and
that.
And now he could see Torch plus Invasive Species.
I like the way you phrase that.
Spot.
So if you play around the equalize specifically, you're saying, yes, I get to keep my Oni Ronin, but they get to keep their best card. So
right.
is my empty versus your empty better than my Oni Ronin versus your best card? And yeah, I think you're right. That's a very good way to put it.
Who's top decking better in this spot? Like, just look at what's happened.
So the casters explained it very well here. There are some cases, like in the previous game, where I choose not to empty my hand because I can figure out that, oh, my card is better than their last card most of the time. And if you want a really, really good example of that, go check out my previous video.
Old Wretched got 1 chance to top deck. They got a second. They got a Defiance. And that's just it.
It's not going to be enough because that Emmerich got Aegis here. All right, JNL, the winner of the winner bracket. JNL is going straight to the finals. Pretty impressive showing tonight. Pretty impressive, I got to say. Sometimes you face a field of 15 players who want to bring control of mid-range decks, and you bring aggro and smash face.
That's exactly what I predicted. Everyone was going to try to go over the top of each other, and that would just smack face.
And you make great plays.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I mean, we'll see what Twitch chat's reaction is. They're on a bit of a delay. I'm curious to how many of them, like, once I sort of looked at it and thought through it, it became very clear that JNL made exactly the right play, and it immediately worked out in the best way possible because it was the right play, but it wasn't the natural play. You always hold cards back when your opponent could potentially sort of harsh rule or that kind of affect away your board. But JNL knew what to do. They did it, and it paid off exactly as they planned. And that's why they're going to be moving on.
So generally, to reach high levels of play in a card game, you do the play that's right 80 or 90% of the time. And then those off plays that rarely show up, you slowly refine them over time. But before you can do the fancy plays that don't show up a lot, you have to get the fundamental 80 to 90% down. I can't stress this enough.